Hi, this presentation is on factors and captains of industry. It is meant to be a little bit of review of things that we've gone over for the past 2 weeks. So some of the questions you might be able to answer on your own, and some of the questions will be new to you. Let's begin. We also have a guest star today. One of my friend's dogs agreed to appear in our video to help us remember the factors of learning, factors of industry, and know what a monopoly is. Let's review. If you remember the 4 factors of industry, take a moment right now and write them down on your paper. If not, let's see how Bella can help us remember the 4 factors of industry. In this video, you can see Bella rushing towards the 4 factors of industry. She decided to run away with some of the money, but you can see she has the 4 things that she needs to build a business right there in front of her. In this video, you'll see Bella interacting with her workers. And then again, she takes the money and runs off. We'll check in with Bella again a little bit later, but if you want to go watch her with her factors of industry again, feel free. Go ahead and make sure you wrote them down on your paper. The next thing on your assignment is going to be to match the captain of industry with his industry. Remember, a captain means leader. So the following 4 men are leaders in their industry. And an industry is what type of business they're in. It's not the name of their company, but it's the type of business they are in. For example, in the modern day time, Bill Gates is in the computer industry. Steve Jobs is in the computer industry, but they are not. Those are not the names of their businesses. So first we have Andrew Carnegie and the steel industry. His company name is Carnegie Steel. His company is based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And a couple weeks ago you had some lessons on raw materials and finished products and how he uses the railroad to transport his products. Henry Ford is the captain of the automobile industry. He comes a little bit later than the other 3 gentlemen. And his industry is based out of Detroit. This changes the field of transportation forever. He mass produces, remember that means to make a lot of, automobiles on the assembly line. Cornelius Vanderbilt is the captain of the railroad and shipping industry, and he started before the other guys. And they all need him to ship their products, raw materials and finished products, all over the country. And finally, you have John D. Rockefeller, who's president of the captain of the oil industry. His company name is Standard Oil, and we will be looking at him a little bit more closely this week with monopolies. A monopoly is the control or domination of a market by a single company. So in a moment, you're going to see Bella has a monopoly on her toys. She is dominating them. No one else has them. She's sitting with them, and she's happy. So I'll show you her again. You can see Bella sitting in front of her toys. She has a monopoly on them. No one else is touching them. No one else can take them from her. She is the one in control. We talked about this a little bit last week in class, but just to remind you, a lot of the captains of industry did many questionable or not very nice things to get where they are, and they upset many people along the way. And so one of those people who was upset by one of their business practices was a woman named Ida Tarbell. Her father was in the oil industry, and because Rockefeller had a monopoly, it ended up pushing her father out of business, and he was not able to do as well as he could. So Mr. Tarbell was not able to be as successful as he could have been because of Rockefeller. At least that's how Ida Tarbell perceived the situation. We talked about point of view before. She was called a muckraker. We'll talk about what that word means later on. You can look it up on your own. However, she wrote in magazines, specifically McClure's magazine, about unfair business practices by Rockefeller. And her pieces were called The History of Standard Oil. And she wrote many different weekly columns about Rockefeller and Standard Oil and what he did. Her investigation helped break up the Standard Oil Company. The Supreme Court determined that monopolies were illegal in the early 1900s, and her investigating helped the Supreme Court to break up Rockefeller's company into a bunch of smaller pieces. And finally, I'd like you to make a connection and respond to the following question. Do you think it's fair that one company can own all the parts of an industry? Why or why not? So is it fair that Rockefeller owned 90% of the oil industry and every part of it, and Ida Tarbell's father can't compete with that? He can't keep Rockefeller's prices down. He can't keep his business afloat. So think about it that way, or with Andrew Carnegie and steel, or Henry Ford and automobiles, or Vanderbilt and shipping. Now, the other gentleman may or may not have had a monopoly, and we'll look at that in class, but I just want you to take it into consideration when you answer your question. Let's conclude our presentation by seeing Bella with her factors of industry one last time. Thank you, Bella, for helping us out with learning the factors of industry and learning what a monopoly is. I hope to have many other guest stars in my videos throughout the rest of the school year. The end.